How can we prepare for the collapse?
You need to do your own research that is relevant to your own circumstances, in order to prepare properly.
Can you give me some advice, based on your own analysis?
Well, to survive we need to first understand what our society will be like post-collapse, so the first part of preparation is education. I'd advise you to read and listen to Cody Lundin, Dmitry Orlov, and Michael Ruppert. Also YouTube channels Demcat, The Patriot Nurse, What You Waiting For, Mr. Lock and Load, and New America Now, are invaluable sources of information. I'd also advise you to research into what post-collapse society was like in the USSR, Zimbabwe, and Argentina.
I understand why that is important. How else can I prepare?
Well, any hourly important thing is probably the psychological or spiritual side of things. Personal growth is very important. If you identify and attach strongly to material possessions or social status, then post-collapse living may be such a deep shock that it may break you emotionally. I'd advise you to cultivate inner traits like self-acceptance, self-honesty, integrity, courage, patience, tenacity, resourcefulness, optimism, gratefulness, compassion, and wisdom. I'm talking to myself, as well as you.
I see. What physical steps can I take?
Well, most of us rely on the infrastructure of a functioning economy to provide us with food, shelter, heating, clothing, transportation, medical care, and security. I cannot give you advice specific to your circumstances, but I can attempt to give some general advice for preparation, if you like.
Please do.
Well, when it comes to food and water, as a society we rely on shops and supermarkets for our sustenance. However, what will happen once our commercial industry is no longer functioning? As a community we need to return to local food production. We can begin by growing food in our gardens. Even if you live in an apartment you can grow food in a window box. Also, hoarding tin food, powdered meal replacements and drinking water is a good idea for when the supply of food and drink becomes scarce. Another good idea is a rainwater barrel. The collected water can be drunk if boiled, and it can be used for washing.
What about shelter?
Investing in basic camping equipment is wise, not only if you're made homeless, but also in case you need to move around. Squatting is also easier if you have basic camping equipment.
What about clothing and heating?
If you live in a place that has winters, I'd advise you to invest in thermal wear from camping stores or army surplus stores. It is important to buy durable and functional clothing for cold winters.
What about transportation?
It is wise to invest in a bicycle, because when the economy crashes oil will become too expensive and in short supply. I'd also advise you to buy some high-quality and durable walking boots from a camping store, because if you don't have a bike, walking will be your main method of transport.
What about medical care?
I'd advise you to get any nagging injuries fixed as soon as possible, and to take preventative measures for future injuries like. It is also a good idea to stock up on anti-inflammatories and antibiotics. People can become ill from poor nutrition, so I'd advise you to get educated on the basics. Hygiene and sanitation will also be a serious problem post-collapse, so I'd advise educating yourself on how to keep your body, your food, and your living quarters protected. A simple, yet invaluable idea for hygiene is to invest in a burn barrel, to dispose of waste.
What about security?
If where you live allows it, buy a gun. If it doesn't, buy knives, eskrima sticks, or anything that will enable you to protect yourself and your loved ones. Also, if you're not involved in some type of full-contact combat sport or martial arts training, I'd advise you to begin doing that now. If you're strapped for cash, I'd recommend boxing. It is usually very cheap. If you can't afford to train anywhere local, or can't find anywhere, search on the internet for ideas, and practice with friends. Bear in mind that tenacity and athleticism are traits that have extremely high value in self-protection, and almost anyone can improve those traits through calisthenics.
Any other advice?
It is wise to try to minimize reliance on utilities companies. There are a range of solar and wind-up powered appliances, like lanterns and radios. It would be wise to invest in them.
Do you think that the general public is preparing?
Well, the two countries I watch the closest are the US and the UK. I believe that there are growing numbers in the US that are waking up to the collapse. Unfortunately, the UK seems considerably more underinformed and asleep. Unfortunately, that's where my friend Lukmanak resides.
That is a shame.
It is. One last piece of advice, and probably the most important. No one will survive post-collapse alone. A close-knit community is needed to survive the threat of sustenance scarcity, disease, and violence. You need to begin informing your friends, family, neighbors, and work colleagues now. Early and collective preparation is needed to survive the post-collapse period until a stable society and functioning economy is formed, which may, unfortunately, take over a decade.
Links in the description box.